The Focke-Achgelis Fa-223 Drache or Dragon was a helicopter developed by Germany during World War II. A single 750 kilowatt Bramo 323 radial engine powered two 3-bladed 12-meter rotors mounted on twin booms on either side of the 12-meter long cylindrical fuselage. The Fa-223 is the first military helicopter to attain production status. Heinrich Focke was a German aviation pioneer and also a co-founder of the famous Focke-Wulf Company. Focke designed the world's first practical helicopter, the Focke-Wulf FW-61, which first flew on June 26, 1936. In 1936, Focke was ousted from the Focke-Wulf Company by shareholder pressure. Though the ostensible reason was that he was considered politically unreliable by the Nazi regime, there is reason to believe it was so that Focke-Wulf's manufacturing capacity could be used to produce Bf-109 aircraft. Focke established the Focke-Achgelis Company on April 27, 1937 in partnership with pilot Gerd Achgelis, and began development work in 1938. Focke subsequently manufactured a series of heavy-lift transport helicopters. But only the large Fa-223 Dragon was produced. The helicopter had provision for a nose-mounted machine gun, and could carry 1 or 2 bombs, but the Dragon was never used for combat. It was primarily used as mountain troop transport, rescue, and crashed aircraft recovery vehicle. Its first untethered flight was on August 3, 1940, after over 100 hours of ground and tethered testing. In October, it was flown to the test center at Rechlin to be demonstrated, and while there set a top speed of 182 km per hour, a climb rate of 528 meters per minute, and a maximum altitude of 7,100 meters. This was a performance far greater than had been demonstrated by any other helicopter in the world. Despite this, the Dragon was nowhere near ready for military service, and Focke-Achgelis were told to accelerate their development program. An initial production order for 100 machines was promised. By the time the third prototype appeared, the German Air Ministry had abandoned the idea of different variants and settled on a single multipurpose aircraft. Its interior was divided into 4 sections: the cockpit, where pilot and observer sat side by side, with the pilot on the left, the load compartment, the engine compartment, and the tail section. The engine and gearbox were centrally mounted and held in place by a series of tension steel cables, with the gearbox in front of the engine. Serial production of the Fa-223 began at the Focke-Achgelis factory in Delmenhorst in 1942. The site was struck in June that year by an Allied air raid and destroyed, along with the 2 surviving prototypes and the first 7 pre-production machines undergoing final assembly. Attempts were made to restore production but were abandoned in 1943, and a new plant was set up at Lothium, near Ulm. The first Dragon to emerge from the new factory was flown by pilot Karl Bode for a series of information films made for the Air Ministry to demonstrate the Fa-223's abilities. Loads which included a complete Fieseler Storch aircraft and the fuselage of a Bf-109 were shown being lowered with great precision onto vehicles using the helicopter's winch and special quick-release electrical cargo hook. In early 1944, a Dornier Do-217 crashed high up on the Venner Moor in Lower Saxony, between Osnabrück and Oldenburg, and it was decided to send the Dragon to recover the wreckage. Unfortunately, the helicopter ended up crashing nearby before it could attempt to lift the Do-217's remains. It was then decided to attempt to recover both using another Dragon. Flown by Karl Bode, the operation was begun on May 11, 1944. The operation was successful. All the major parts of the crashed Dragon and the Do-217 were retrieved, and much useful experience was gained. Only 7 machines had been constructed at Lothium before an air raid halted production in July 1944, and wiped out the factory. At the time of the raid, the 18th prototype was ready for delivery, 13 Dragons were in assembly, and there were enough components for a further 19. Following the raid, the Air Ministry decided that it was useless to pursue the project any further, and following the mountain trials, Focke was assigned to Messerschmitt staff. Only weeks later, Focke received new orders, this time to return to the Focke-Achgelis Company and to move the entire operation to Berlin Tempelhof Airport, where flight testing was to be resumed, and a production line established to produce 400 helicopters per month. In January 1945, the Air Ministry assigned 3 Dragons to Transportstaffel or Transport Squadron 40 at Mulldorf, Bavaria, the Luftwaffe's only operational helicopter squadron. The squadron relocated to various sites before ending up at Einring in Germany, where one of the Dragons was destroyed by its pilot to prevent it being captured, and the other 2 were seized by U.S. forces. The U.S. intended to ferry captured aircraft back to the U.S. aboard a ship, but only had room for one of the captured Dragon. The RAF objected to plans to destroy the others, so a German pilot with 2 observers flew the 14th Dragon across the English Channel from Cherbourg to RAF Beaulieu on September 6, 1945, the first crossing of the Channel by a helicopter. This helicopter later made 2 test flights at RAF Beaulieu before being destroyed on October 3 in a crash where the helicopter dropped 18 meters to the ground. Every 25 hours, the steel housing securing the engine should have been tightened using a special tool, but that tool was never brought to England. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.